Look out. Here come former SportsCenter anchor Bob Stevens, esteemed basketball coach Rich Basirico, and Hall of Fame sports writer Curry Kirkpatrick. And someone's going under the bus.
Welcome in. Thanks for joining us under the bus. I think we should all start under the bus because, boy, it's hard to throw too many people under the bus with some just fabulous performances by folks over the weekend. I cannot imagine that we would ever lead with tennis on under the bus as the ultimate weekend activity. But look at Curry with that big smile on his face. This was pretty good stuff, the men's and women's final at the French Open. I cede the floor to you. Is that as good as it gets?
Well, yeah, I think Sinner and Alcaraz just for 5.5 hours, the hitting that they continue to come up with for that long a time is just amazing to me. I mean, this is not new. They've been dominating the sport in the last few years, and they're only. I mean, Alcaraz is 22, I think, just turned 22. Sinner's 23, and they obviously have separated themselves from the rest of the field. I mean, that's obvious, and it's amazing to me that Alcaraz has beaten this guy 5 times in a row. When you see them play each other. And yet Sinner has won 2 majors in that time. I guess he didn't have to play Alcaraz in those 2, but just the high level, the angles and the corners and the lines and the athleticism. They just both of them just hit. It's hard to choose which one is better. It's amazing to me.
Well,
are they as good? Are they as good as the 3 who Hall of Fame superstars who preceded them? Are they? Is their best tennis as good as the best tennis those guys played?
Well, Rich, you saw a few of those matches with Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal that Bob is talking about. Just as a fan of tennis, what do you think? I mean, I kind of get closer and know a little bit more about it.
You know a lot more about it than we do, but
you watch those guys.
Yeah, I do. And to be honest with you, Alcatraz for him to come down, being down 2 sets against the number 1 player in the world, and obviously he's the number 2 player in the world, but still being down 2 sets and coming back and winning 3 in a row is pretty darn good. That's amazing. I don't know if I've ever seen that happen before, being down 2. And what they went to 3 tiebreakers. So it's truly amazing. And the thing about it is, Sinner's, I got picked up on that he's been to the finals in the last 8 tournaments he's been in. He's been to the actual finals 8 times in a row. Obviously, he hasn't won all 8, but he's been to the finals 8 times in a row. Yeah. But here's a question I have for you, Curry. Is it true that Sinner is coming off a doping situation, a doping ban, that he was banned for 3 months? Is that correct?
Yeah, he made a settlement with the authorities who, accused him of taking some drug. Of course, he said it was a masking deal, and he didn't know it was illegal, and they ruled against him and banned him. But he kind of settled. He kind of made a settlement so that he got banned. His I think it was for 3 months, but it ended before the French Open, so he could play that. It was been between Australia, which he won a major, and then the French Open. That's when they suspended him. He was coming off. It was very controversial, but I don't know. I kind of went along with his excuse. He didn't know what he was taking. He didn't know it was illegal. He's had no problems, on court or off court on any other things. So, and the players seem. I mean, that's one thing. These 2 guys have such honor and respect for each other. You saw that after the match, and even during the match, they're letting lines go. I mean, it's just, I covered the great McEnroe and Borg finals at Wimbledon. 2 and 3 of the great matches of all time. But it was kind of different in that there was more. They played on grass, So both of them had to volley a little bit, although Borg stayed back 90% of the time, but he learned to volley. That's how he won Wimbledon 5 times. But, I remember those matches, and I covered McEnroe's epic loss to Lendl at the French Open final when McEnroe was up 2 sets, and Lendl came from behind to beat him in 5. And he talked about that all during the weekend. He hates to talk about that, but it's such a crushing to lose one of these things is just wrenching. And you saw that in Sinner. He could hardly speak at the ceremonies. He was so, he was so close. And, you talked about him being 2 sets up. He also had 3 match points in the 4th set against Alcaraz at 140. I mean, that to me, that's really where how do you do that? And Alcaraz just treated as just, a walk in the park. He just bore down. And he said something interesting. He knows the great history of some of these great players coming from behind. He mentioned Djokovic had match point down against Federer in Wimbledon a few years ago, and he came from behind, he saved the match point and won the match, which is hard to believe when you come, you have Federer's 2 match points up when you win that match. So he's, I think these 2 guys, and Sinner hardly even looks Italian. He's from the northern part of Italy.
Right.
He might as well be Swedish or German or whatever it is, and, being the fashion capital of the world, Paris, I was a little disappointed in, or fascinated by Sinner's outfit. He has a little blue cap and the little blue shorts and the green shirt. Tony Kornheiser mentioned on his podcast that he looked like a little rascal from the Little Rascals. I thought he was going more for the AC/DC, that Angus Young, that little schoolboy chic outfit that Angus Young wears on concert for AC/DC. Looked more like that. But,
thank you for making it a little bit more relevant. You go back to those other guys.
Yeah.
At least folks 60 and above will know AC/DC. You're getting past our ages.
Well, and they
go back any further.
They go to the 5th set, and you would think that there were no timeouts called at all during the match. They didn't seem to go. I don't know that they went to the locker room at all after any of the sets. And they go to the 5th. They go to the 5th, and Alcaraz plays an amazing set. And then they go to this 10-point tiebreak, which they now play in a Masters finals. And Alcaraz just played an amazing tiebreak. I mean, Sinner was just he was just ramble off. I mean, he was hitting great shots, and Alcaraz was just hitting greater ones, and to win it.
Well, he won 7 straight points, didn't he? In the tiebreak, last 7 straight.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And Alcaraz is now 13-1 in 5-set matches.
Wow.
And Sinner is now 0-7 in matches that take longer than 4 hours. So if you want to throw anybody under the bus,
maybe.
But play 5.5 hours. Think of all the sports: baseball, basketball, football. To play 5.5 hours.
As baseball is.
Yeah.
I mean,
or used to be.
So now the Knicks, Tibbs got kind of fired because he didn't play his players.
Yeah,
think about this. How about these guys going to 5.5 hours? All you asking is an NBA player go 48 minutes.
Well, the thing
and they have halftime.
Yeah.
Right?
The thing is, late in the 5th set, these guys are hitting. They're hitting as great as shots as they did in the 1st set. Yeah. I mean, if you tuned in, if you were non-tennis fan, and just turn this on in the 3rd hour or the 4th hour or the 5th hour, you wouldn't know. You think it was the 1st set. I mean, it was an epic final. Deserved to lead our under the bus. Hard to throw anybody under. I'll go to the women though and throw some women.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk about the women. That was almost as good, wasn't it?
Well, the great story all in the tennis was this young French woman, Lois Boisson, 22 years old, who was 360 in the world, number 360, had never played a match on the tour. She was a wild card into the French last year, and she injured herself right before the tournament and couldn't play. So this was her story, and she whipped through this thing, beating seeds and beating. She played this young Russian girl, Andreeva, who's only 19, but she's one of the stars of the tour already, and she's one of the divas of the tour, Andreeva. And the crowd started getting behind Boisson, obviously, and Andreeva started smashing balls into the walls. And at one point she called for one of her team to leave the stadium, to get out of the stadium, because she didn't like how they were. I mean, this is how much of a diva she is, and she got her ass kicked, which is good. But then in the semis,
throw her under the bus. All right.
Yeah, for sure, Andreeva. She gets thrown on every week if you watched her. But so Boisson makes it to the semis where she meets Coco, and Coco just overwhelmed her. I mean, that was the end of the road. And again, me being a fashion guru, I mean, here's this French woman. She's in the semis at Roland Garros, and she's wearing boxer shorts, like gym shorts, and a t-shirt, a tank top. I mean, it looked like she thought she's playing the Planet Fitness Regional or something, rather than the French Open. I mean, it was very disappointing. And but Coco ushered her off, and like she barely got 3 games. So on the other side, we have Sabalenka, number 1 player in the world, playing the 4-time champion, who I never can remember her name. What's her name? Come on,
5 times you don't have to.
Yeah, Swiatek, who I love how she plays,
Okay.
But she got Swiatek down and just overpowered her, and got to the final. And now she's playing golf, and she's up 4-1, 40 love in the first set of golf. And golf comes back to break her and gets to 4-4. And I knew right then Sabalenka is going to collapse, even though she won the first set in a tiebreak. Her mind, her head, she's such a head case. And now she gets in the next 2 sets, and the wind starts blowing, and she can't even toss. I'll bet she tossed some. I'll bet she did 30 retosses in the whole match. She couldn't even. And she gets upset, and now she's screaming at herself, screaming at her box, and Goff won the last 2 sets. Well, I could have told you in the first set that she's going to lose, because she's just such a head case. And afterward, I don't know. Did you see her remarks afterward? No. Sabalenka, she loses the French Open, and she's a champion. She's a champion 4 or 5 times of these majors. And you would think the loser always is very serene and very complimentary of the winner and gives her due. But no, Sabalenka. She said, let me get her quotes down here. She said, did Coco win because she played amazing? No. She said, let me get this straight. I want to get this straight for you. I don't know where it is. I wrote it down. But she wasn't, let's just put it this way. She wasn't very complimentary of, it was like a cat fight out there. And
Curry, why do tennis players turn to the box where their coaches are and start yelling at them like it's their fault? I mean, why does that happen in tennis? I don't know any other sport. Does a pitcher in the baseball team look at the dugout and yell at the manager, or does a football player look to the sidelines and screams at them? Why in tennis? I mean, tennis and the 2 things: tennis and soccer. Tennis, they turn to the box and yell at the coaches, and in soccer, when they score, they run away from their teammates and take their shirt off and
Yeah,
slide
yeah,
into the corner.
yeah.
I
They
don't
run
get
into
those two things.
yeah, they run into the corner. They run into the corner.
Right.
Slide in the corner.
Slide, yeah.
Then the thing. So Sabalenka, after she gets beat, she says of Coco,
good.
she says Coco won not because she played incredible, but because I made all these mistakes on easy balls, which she was right. She said Coco was hitting balls off the frame. Somehow they magically when they magically bounced into the court. It felt like a joke. It was a joke. Like someone upstairs, up above, was laughing and says, "See if I can handle this." Well, she couldn't. Well, she couldn't, and she not only said that, she said Swiatek, who she beat in the quarters. She said Swiatek would have won this match. She would have beaten Coco too. I mean, poor Coco. So she's
Wow.
sitting there in the press box. They relate these remarks to her. Coco says, I don't agree with what she says. I'm sitting here with the trophy here.
That's right. That's a great comeback. That's a great
She
comeback.
said, and no shade to Iga Swiatek, but the last time I played her, I beat her too. So what is Sabalenka talking about? You know,
That's
it's
a
just
bad loser. That's a poor loser right there, for
well, yeah,
sure. She
but
should
I'm
definitely
telling
go
you,
under the bus.
I'm telling you, I don't know if you saw her play the third set, but you know, her head is exploding right before her eyes. You can tell she has no idea what she's so upset, and she's just a total psycho. And it's too bad. She needs her team to get her to the psycho ward and start have some doctors start talking to her because
You know, Coco has had all of this said about her and all of this buildup. Has she now got a chance to be the next big thing?
well, I don't think she's as good a player as the other two, but she
Okay.
runs like crazy. She gets everything back. She's a great competitor. She's probably a better competitor than these other two. I don't think she's as good a player. I mean, if
Okay.
you line these people, but golf has a chance to win some more majors, of course. I think at Wimbledon, if Sabalenka's head doesn't get blown off again, you know, she's a big server and she should win on the grass. But yeah, Coco's an amazing retriever and defensive player, and she's just a terrific athlete. And you know, she's a good winner. She deserves it.
Yeah, I agree.
So not only do we talk tennis, but we talk tennis for almost 18 minutes. That's amazing. We're going to come back and talk about the rest of the sports world because we got a lot to talk about. We got the NBA finals going on. We got the NHL finals going on. Some great games there. We got baseball deciding to bring in the robo umps. It's all coming up. Oh yeah, and Rich's favorite quarterback now signs with the Steelers. It's all coming up when we get back to throw folks under the bus. Brought to you by Hudson's on the Docks. Welcome back to Under the Bus. Bob Stevens along with Curry Kirkpatrick and Rich Basirico. We are produced tonight by Worldwide Wes, Wesley Kerr, sitting in and helping us out to get this on. Let's go to the NBA Finals first. Series is 1-1. Indiana steals one in Oklahoma City, comes from 15 down. They are now 5-4 in games in this playoff series. They are 5-4 when they get down by 15. I mean, that's just nuts.
Really is.
I want to throw this theory out at you guys, and Rich, particularly at you. The NBA for years and years and years was all about who had the three best guys. You know, Michael and you know, you got Magic and his guys, and you got Michael and Scotty and all of that. There is a theory out there that the game has changed enough that now it's a matter of who's your worst guy. And that's the team that's got is a problem. It's not the three best guys that carry you. It's the one worst guy that can drag you down. And that's why Oklahoma City is so good. Their worst guy is pretty darn good.
Well, look at these stats right here. In the last game, Indiana had 7 guys in double figures, and Oklahoma City had 5. So, okay, so you put those two stats together, you figure, well, Indiana must have won if they had 7 guys in double figures. But he uses his, I'm sorry, Oklahoma City uses the bench extremely well. When you look at their stats in terms of what they shot from the floor, from 3-point range and for regular field goals, free throw line, Oklahoma City was better than that. But they're very close in those terms. And answer your question, Bob, the depth of Oklahoma City, I think, is so much stronger than Indiana. He can go pretty much 9 deep, and the guys that come off the bench do a terrific job, and they know their role. I mean, some of these guys don't need to score for them to be very strong. I mean, what's the player from Oklahoma City? Is it Dart that plays great defense?
Right.
Yeah, but
Right.
he's not a bench guy. Lou
Well,
Dort.
no, he's not a bench, but he only had 4 points the other night. But
Yeah.
what they look at a box score and they go, oh, 4 points, he didn't have a very good game. But he did have a very good game. Defensively, he really makes it happen for that team. And they kind of follow him defensively in terms of he's scrappy, he makes steals, he gets on the floor. So I never heard it that way, like your weakest player, but it's true. If you look at the 4th and 5th guy, you take your top 3 on each team, and you look at your 4th and 5th. Oklahoma City definitely has the better players, without a doubt.
Well, Bob, it's funny you mentioned who's your worst player. The worst player in Oklahoma City might be our boy Caruso, who comes off the crazy.
Look what he had. Look what he had. They had 20 points.
He had 20 last night. Yeah, he had 20 in the second game. And I think he's the only Oklahoma City player that has been on a championship team. He played with the Lakers and won the championship in the bubble. But he's a funny guy to watch. He's got the headband. He's a crowd favorite, and he looks bizarre. He doesn't look like a basketball player, but he might be their worst guy. Or they had another guy come off the bench in game 2 and score Wiggins. I know the other Wiggins.
Right.
I know the Wiggins has been around the league and played at Golden State, but I never heard of this Wiggins.
Yeah,
and
18 points. Go back and look at his stats in previous games. He didn't come.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever scored in double figures. I shouldn't say ever, but typically does not. But he had 18 points. That's huge. And
Does Oklahoma City still finish this thing off, or does Indiana now have the edge because they won the game on the road?
I don't think. I think Oklahoma City is so much better. Oklahoma City just let that first game get away. They led the whole game except for 0.3 seconds. And led the whole game. I still think I said they win in 5 games. I still think they can win in 5 games, maybe 6. But Oklahoma City, to me, is the better team, and they play better together. I'll tell you the thing that I want to throw under the bus is the officials. It's the game. Basketball is a beautiful game, the way it's played. You go from offense to defense. It's not like football. You change possessions, and the offensive team goes off the floor, the defensive team comes in. Basketball, you miss a shot, you're going back the other way. Even if you make a great play, you got to get back on defense. The officials allow so much holding and pushing. And you see at the end of the game where they pushed the guy out of bounds and the ball went off Indiana. They gave the ball to Oklahoma City. He fouled the heck out of the guy. He literally pushed him, and the official gets on the microphone. There was no foul there. There was no foul. If that's not a foul, what is a foul? What is a foul? And then you hear the announcers go, well, that was a marginal foul. What's a marginal foul? A foul is a foul. Well, you got to cut the guy's head off. There's too much pushing and shoving, and it's not basketball anymore. It's the game. It's the beauty of the game's been taken away in the NBA playoffs because the officials let them hammer each other. It's disgusting. I don't even enjoy watching it. It really is. It's disgusting. It's not the game. It's not the game of basketball the way it's supposed to be played.
So we got our ref killer. That's enough. That's a ref. Speaking of Lou Dort, I got to bring up something that is a real peeve of mine. So they play the epic game, and Lou Dort covers Halliburton. I mean, he makes Halliburton life like hell. Halliburton only plays the last quarter because Lou Dort just kills him for 3 quarters, like you said, and he lets him bully him around. So he plays this great last quarter. He makes the epic shot. And here's who I'm throwing under the bus. The ESPN people come on, and there's a lot of criticism of their studio show as compared to TNT with Barkley and Shaq, and it's well deserved. I mean, they're ridiculous, okay? But so comes on at the end of the game, after the game, comes on Scott Van Pelt. And Scott Van Pelt probably makes $12 trillion an hour or something like that. But he comes on and he starts talking about the epic shot that Halliburton made. And he says it was unbelievable because he made it over Lou Dort, who's the best defensive player in the NBA. And he made this great play on Lou Dort and Halliburton, Lou Dort. And then he gets Halliburton in an interview, and he's talking about Lou Dort guarding him on the last play. Well, guess what? Lou Dort was not guarding Halliburton on the last play.
No.
Lou Dort was under the basket. He was covering the guy, Timmons or whatever his name. He was nowhere near Halliburton. Halliburton made that shot off the young guy that they started instead of the tall guy. Now I'm talking about guys and them, but
yeah.
But
Everybody knows what you're talking about.
Who's the guy that started instead of, and now he started both games. He was a surprise starter. I don't know. He's a good defensive player too, but it wasn't Dort. And Van Pelt goes on and on. It's about 10 minutes later. He says, "Oh, I got to apologize. It wasn't Lou Dort that was guarding Halliburton." He said, "Excuse me, apologies, but I was watching from the fourth level." What? Come on. Don't give me that. And can I keep on my, ESPN rant? Doris Burke.
You think you think I'm gonna stop you?
I don't want to be, I don't want to sound misogynistic, but Doris Burke is terrible. There's talk of this is her last final series because the TNT guys are coming over and ESPN is looking for a new team. Mike Breen is good, but if Doris Burke was a guy, I don't think she'd have a job. I mean, Van Pelt asked her after the game, "Doris, what'd you think of that great play by Halliburton?" Yeah, Halliburton. And Van Pelt said, "What did you say? What did you say?" And she said, and she was blank. She was blank because she said nothing. Go back. She said nothing. She and Richard Jefferson looked at each other like, what just happened? I mean, you get no commentary on what's happening in the game. I mean, that's my, by the way, we have Jefferson who's saying, who told us toward the end of the game that Oklahoma City was targeting Halliburton. They were running every pick and roll at Halliburton because he's their worst defensive player. That's what Jefferson is saying. Right. But after the game comes on Perkins, who's an absolute joke. He can hardly speak English. He comes on and he's saying how Halliburton is a great defensive player. Wait a minute. We just heard your crewman say that he's their worst and they're targeting him. So what happened? I'm confused. These guys are, Perkins and the abominable Stephen A. Smith. All they do is yell at each other to try to copy Barkley and Shaq's chemistry. Well, all they do is yell at each other, so you can't even hear either one of them. It's like
talk about ESPN. ESPN to sign Stephen A. Smith for all that money and all those, was it 10 years or something like that? Yeah. I turn the TV off when he comes on. I can't stand him. He screams and he yells, and he thinks like he's an expert in everything. He's not at all.
Yeah, and let me settle this for anyone who's watching us, listening to us. I never did turn down a $12 million offer or a $10 million a year offer when I was at ESPN. Never did. I was a good company guy. I took my 5, 6, 7 million and just shut up.
Well, that's like me. I said I'll take less to let other people come on the air. To let other people get. Yeah, I took much less.
Wasn't that good of you, Curry?
Yeah.
You guys are good guys.
Right. Well, then they have this fat guy, the fat guy, Windhorst, where his name is.
Brian Windhorst,
who's been writing LeBron's coattails since he was in high school. That's how he
Yes.
got the job at ESPN.
Yes.
You know, he covered LeBron when he was in high school. He comes on the other night and says a Pacers assistant coach told him before the game exactly how they were going to win. They were going to stick around and play, you know, team defense. And then their defense would play great in the fourth, and Halliburton would hit the shot to win the game. He said, the guy told me exactly what was happening.
Yeah, right.
Come on.
Well,
Give me a break.
if that's the case, then the games are fixed. If that's the case.
Give me a break. Yeah.
Or tell me that before the game.
Yeah.
Well,
Think
game
about
two,
what
game
happened in the
two-
second game when Oklahoma City went on a 19-2 run in the second quarter. 19-2. You're NBA. You're playing a championship game. You score. You let the opposing team 19 points, and you get 2.
and Halliburton doesn't even look at the basket. So that's when I turn it off. I mean, I think it's unwatchable. Then you compare this to the NHL, the 2 hockey games. I know you guys don't tune in, but these guys
I watched
play.
the end of that one.
The first game is overtime. The second game is double overtime. It's unbelievable stuff. In the first game, the first period, I think 5 goals are scored or something. Gretzky, the great one on the set, he called it the greatest period he ever saw in hockey. That's how good this stuff is.
Wow.
And, you know, and he's watching, and, you know, he knows something. And in the second game, Connor McDavid makes this unbelievable play, swerving and skating around guys, and makes an assist to Draisaitl. And you know, that's why they call him McJesus. It's one of the most unbelievable plays. His own guy, his own Bouchard, his own teammate who started the play, is standing around after that holding his head like, oh my God, what did I just see? That's his own teammate that McJesus played. It's just unbelievable stuff. Then game two, you know, so we have this great hero, the best player in hockey, McDavid, and then we have a villain, the little Brad Marchand from Florida, who used to play in Boston, and he was called the Rat. They used to throw rats on the ice, little stuffed rats, every time he made a goal. He's the guy that went up to an opponent and kissed his face. Remember that? He gave a kiss to some opponent. I mean, he's so obnoxious. So he's unbelievable player. I mean, Florida got him in a trade in mid-season when Boston was clearing house, and he's added to this team who's already the champions. And he scored the go-ahead goal to go ahead 4-3 in the third on a breakaway. Then this is how good this stuff is. Edmonton ties the game with 17 seconds left, the latest goal to tie in history. So they go to double overtime, and here comes the Rat Marchand again, gets a breakaway and scores a winning goal. This stuff you can't. I mean, you know, this hockey is just terrific. It's just unbelievable stuff.
So now they are flying 2,540 miles between Edmonton and Miami to play games 3 and 4. Good stuff there. Curry, of course, wants to sue Marchand for stealing the rat thing, you know, from Krzyzewski. So
I know.
obviously you've got
I sent a friend of mine who's from Florida the other night. I have that great cartoon of Krzyzewski as the rat. I have that great cartoon, and so I send it to him, and I pretend it's Marchand's daddy. So who's your daddy, Marchand? It turns out to be Krzyzewski the rat. So they're all in the rat, man. They're all in the rat family.
All good stuff. Hey, we got to talk about the new quarterback of the Steelers. We're probably going to end up putting off baseball because we're running so long, but we're going to do all of that when we come back and throw somebody for sure under the bus. What a week in sports. And you know, this stuff we're not even going to get to. The deal, the antitrust settlement between the NCAA and the colleges that's going to turn everything even more upside down than it already is. We've got the automatic balls and strikes thing that's going to come to baseball next year. And if you watch as much baseball as I do, I didn't used to think it was such a big deal. or such a good idea, I'm all for it now. The sooner the better. We'll get into that in another week. We got to talk about Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers. Rich, I know he's not going to be able to help your Giants, but
that's
you
good.
know,
That's good.
Yeah, you think that's good that he's in Pittsburgh?
Yeah. Well, well, Pittsburgh really had no choice. They don't have a quarterback. Really, when you think about it, they don't really have a starting quarterback. They had to reach out to him. Who else could start for them? Randolph? I mean, and Aaron Rodgers, he last 2 years with the Jets, because he tore his Achilles his first year, and last year he had a so-so year. But hang in there with him for a year and see what happens. Can he still get it done? I don't know. I think his personality and his it's got to be a good match with him and his teammates, and he can turn his teammates off pretty quickly. But if I don't know, he's got some wide receivers he's always got along with, some that he doesn't. But it depends on how he comes into camp and what kind of leadership role he plays. Obviously, guys are going to look up to him because of his career and what he's done, what he's accomplished. But he's kind of, I don't know, he's kind of a little off the wall, isn't he? I mean,
Quirky. You know,
Quirky.
in football, you only want your kickers to be quirky. You don't want your quarterback. You don't want your quarterback to be quirky.
That is true.
Now, you guys, he's going to run up against Mike Tomlin, whose team this is. He's the coach, and he's beloved in Pittsburgh. And he's, they always say he's never had a losing season. Well, he hadn't been in the playoffs. He hadn't had a playoff win in about 20 years either. So, but Tomlin and the Steelers, that you talk about character and stuff like that. That's what the Steelers have. And I don't think they're going to put up with any of Rodgers' shenanigans. Of course, most of his shenanigans now come off the field where he goes to what's his name's TV show and starts talking about So I don't know how that affects his play, but it seems to. I don't know. You're right, Rich. He didn't have a choice, and Rodgers didn't have a choice.
That's what I wanted. I was thinking, the only thing Rodgers has to respect, for all the goofiness and quirkiness of Rodgers, he certainly respects the Steelers. I would guess he respects Tomlin, and maybe Tomlin in the end kind of leaves him alone and says, "Okay, you build the relationships, you do your thing. I trust you. Just don't throw a whole lot of picks."
Right. Well, the thing about it is, why did he wait so long? I mean, he really had no more options. The only option was either to retire or go with the Steelers. So why do you have him waiting until June? What was that all about?
It sounded to me like all this news is coming out now that, first of all, he wanted to play with the Los Angeles team, and he gave them a quote discount, whatever that means. And he was going to play for a lot less money than he was offering. And they said, no, we don't want
Which LA team? Chargers or Rams?
The Rams.
Rams.
Okay.
And then he was waiting to see what would happen in Minnesota because, they're going with this untested second-year guy, rookie from Michigan, who hardly ever throw a pass at Michigan. But,
J.J. McCarthy.
J.J. McCarthy. And, he was waiting around to see if maybe he could get a slot there, but then they got rid of all their guys, and they're going with McCarthy. So there was no path there. So Pittsburgh was about the only thing left. But I think that's what he was doing, Rich. All those weeks of waiting, he was trying to see if he could get somewhere else where he had a better shot. I don't think Pittsburgh is that good a team that they're going to be an automatic playoff team.
In the same division with the Ravens and Cincinnati, who I think is going to be better this year. Yeah, that's a tough spot. All right, throw somebody under the bus, Rich. You got one?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to go to golf. Sam Burns when he missed a 5-footer. How about that one?
How about both of those guys playing that's a choke-a-thon, that thing. Because even on the last hole, what's his name? The guy from New Zealand, Foxy, Ryan Fox as Jim Nantz started calling him Foxy, as if Jim Nantz had ever even heard of this guy. He sounded like he's my best friend. He called him Foxy. So on the last hole, he hits that great 3-wood to 7 feet, and then he's got, if Burns doesn't 3-putt, there's still going to be a playoff because he missed his eagle putt.
Yeah.
I mean, that was, and Fox himself said, I want to ask Bob, is this a golf term? Fox said we had a pillow fight in the last 3 playoff holes, the two of us. Is that a golf tournament when guys are choking their ass off? It's a pillow fight.
That's just a general sports term. Rich has had some teams that played in pillow fights before. When just neither competitor is up to the competition.
Yeah, you can't put the ball in the ocean. Both teams can't put it in the ocean. That's a pillow fight.
That's a pillow fight for sure.
Bob, I thought
it was interesting that it was that after they had played, it was a par 5, fairly long par 5.
Yeah.
And nowadays all the guys hit the par 5s in 2. These guys couldn't do it. And so they moved the pin for the 3rd and 4th playoff holes up closer where they could go get it. I mean, they said, geez, we got to fix the pillow fight. So,
have you ever seen that happen before, Bob, where they moved the pin?
I've never seen that before. That was something new to me. Yeah.
Well, how about they both? I think in regulation they both birdied 18, didn't they?
Yeah, and that it's a pretty hole if you hit your wedge close enough. And
Burns shot 62, by the way.
Yeah,
62, and birdied the 18th, and then Foxy birdied the 18th in regulation, and then they couldn't come anywhere near it for 4 holes in the playoff, and finally. Bob, I got to ask you, at one point, Fox was playing so fast between shots. He hit a ball before Burns got to his ball. I mean, where's the etiquette in that? Isn't there? Are you allowed to do that?
Well, sure. I mean, and to heck with etiquette. I like the fact that he went ahead and played. Get up there and hit the ball.
Well, but he hit his ball before Burns even got to his own ball. I've never heard of that. In fact, Nance said that Foxy is rushing so fast he doesn't want to miss the Tonys.
Well, that's the genius of Nance. He made sure he promoted the show that was coming on after the golf.
Another plug that Nance does for CBS. Yeah, that's why.
Curry, you got anybody else to throw under the bus?
Yeah, I do. One last, the NCAA baseball committee. I didn't know this until I started watching these playoffs. But did you know you cannot in college baseball? You cannot flip your bat. If you hit a home run and flip your bat, you're out of the game. You're suspended. And they suspended that Duke guy last week that we talked about. Right. Suspended for coming out of the dugout with his hard hat on still. Yeah. They upheld that suspension. He didn't play the first game.
I know. How far did he come out of the dugout? Did you see the replay on that?
Yeah,
he came in like 3 feet out of the dugout.
3 feet. Well, a guy hit a game. It might have been Tennessee Arkansas game. A guy hit a home run, and the Arkansas dugout got up and started, and they all got and they stopped right at the top of the dugout. And then the Arkansas guy, after he hit the home run, he almost flipped his. I tell you, and I didn't know about this rule. He almost flipped his bat and he held it, and then he just put it down. And that's when the announcer said, if he flipped it, he's suspended. And I'm saying, what? What, are you kidding me? Major leaguers now are throwing the bat everywhere. I mean, they're hurling it everywhere. And these guys can't even flip it. Under the bus to the rules committee for that.
They need to be like Jose Serrano in Major League and hit the home run and you carry the bat all the way around. That'd be good stuff. I can't come up with anything better than that for throwing people under the bus. I guess I'll throw all the baseball umpires under the bus. I'm actually, the game I've got on behind me has a minor league umpire behind home plate, and he's been terrific. He's called strikes. He's called balls, and it's not been a 50-50 coin flip, which so much of baseball has been. ABS cannot come soon enough, and we'll certainly talk more about that as we go on. Thanks so much. Yes.
Bob, before we go away, let's mention one thing about golf. This is our last show before the U.S. Open.
U.S. Open, that's right. Yeah, pick a winner.
Huge tournament coming up. And as a matter of fact, the biggest news in the Canadian Open was that Rory McIlroy missed the cut the week before the U.S. Open. What's going to happen? Who's going to win it? in Oakmont, one of the great courses in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's Scotty Scheffler of the field. This is Tiger times now. It's Scotty Scheffler of the field. And Oakmont is brutal. And it's going to, the stimp meter, I saw the picture today with a stimp meter, which is how they measure how fast the greens are. 16. Usually they're like 12, but is really fast. These are supposedly set at 16. So we're going to see golf balls rolling all over the place. It's going to be wild and crazy.
So Bob, you mentioned the stimp meter. What is the thing called that they replaced, that they made the new hole the other day in Ontario? They made, what's that called? It's got to have a name.
It's called a shovel. Goofy stuff. And we'll be back to talk about it all next week. Our special thanks to Worldwide West, Wesley Kerr, for pitching in and helping us. Justin Jarrett just had too many things on his plate this week. So apparently we don't come first. So thanks to Worldwide West who made us number one.
Thanks, Wes.
We'll throw Justin under the bus. And we'll be back and talk more about who won the U.S. Open and if they moved any holes on 18 on the final day. When we're back under the bus, brought to you by Hudson's on the Docks, great seafood restaurant in Hilton Head, South Carolina, hudsonsonthedocks.com. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Under the Bus is a production of the Lowco Media Network and is filmed on the Hilton Head Island campus of the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. The executive producer is Justin Jarrett, with assistance from Trey Ramsey, Mahogany Hickman, and Adam Carroll.